Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we were discussing about P block elements, and we have done lots of initial drills like writing electronic configuration, trying to understand the variation of the trends of the atoms down the group across the period. Okay. Now this chapter is a bulky chapter in which so many contents are there which we cannot recall without keeping questions in our mind. So after every session, I will be giving you some questions to do, and those questions will act as an envelope for your memory bank. It is applicable for a teacher also. Like if you ask me, tell me something about P block, I won't know from where to start and where to end, because P block elements, there are so many elements in the P block, and there are so many properties, and there are so many regular properties, there are so many irregular trends also, that expected trends becomes reverse. So those special cases we will be doing after we discuss about the broad areas of learning in this chapter. So we have seen the variation of electronic configuration, atomic radius, ionization enthalpy, electronegativity, physical properties, chemical properties. Chemical properties we will see. I hope your concept of p pi and d pi bonding is clear. If not, then I can make it. Let me do it in general ones. In p block elements, we study about anomalous properties. So we have to study about, although it starts from group 13, but we have to study about group 15, group 16, group 17, and group 18. And the first atom of every group, nitrogen, oxygen, chlorine, neon, being the smallest atom and with highest electronegativity, they show certain properties which are different from other elements in the same group. Like nitrogen, you will see, it is a very small atom. So that is why its px orbital undergoes head-on overlapping very easily. So forms one sigma bond. It also has py, and it also has pz orbital. As nitrogen's electronic configuration is helium 2s2 to be, I write 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. So this we write as helium 2s2, 2p3. That means in the p orbital, that is px, py, and pz. One electrons are there. So any one of these orbitals can form sigma bond. If I take for another nitrogen, there are two nitrogen atoms. One is this nitrogen atom and there is this nitrogen atom. It also has px, py, and pz. Now I can just change the orientation. You know, I can turn the notebook, I can turn the graph, so I can write px here. What is the problem? Both the extremes can be just turned mirror image, but py will remain in the between. But extremes can change. This is like this. So these px and px, they can form sigma bond strong bond because they can come closer. And since they are close enough, so they can form py pi bond and pz pi bond also. So this pi bond is actually py pi bond. This pi bond is pz pi bond, and this is px sigma bond. This in your NCERT book, this concept in your NCERT book, in short, they are writing as p-pi bonding. Owing to this p-pi bonding, the bond strength of nitrogen and nitrogen is so strong that it behaves like an inert gas. It has very high bond dissociation energy. How much high? It requires thunderstorm. It requires thunderstorm to break. And then only nitrites and nitrates are formed and they are absorbed in the soil, and then plants take it and they convert it into protein. Proteins are consumed by animals, and animals they give out it as nitrogenous waste, and those nitrogenous wastes are further decomposed by microbes to form nitrogen gas. The whole cycle takes place. But atmospheric nitrogen is inert. That is why in thunderstorm it breaks. It is used for flashing chips, flushing food products, to prevent rancidity. It is so inert. It is inert gas, very less reactive. Whereas if you will see phosphorus, the atoms are so big that their px and px they can come closer, but their pn, py and pz, they cannot come effectively close to each other. They cannot come close to each other because they are far apart. If you can see my finger, please acknowledge if you can see my finger. Can you see my finger?
Yes, sir.
So these two fingers, if I intertwine like this strongly, this is sigma bond. These two fingers will be pi bond, and these two fingers are also pi bond. PZ, PZ, PY, PY, and this is strong sigma bond in between. But if my these fingers would have been long, too long, and these two fingers had been small, then what would have happened? I would have formed a strong bond like this, but it would have been difficult for these two bonds to come closer. This is what is happening when the atomic size, of the phosphorus or other atoms are increasing. When the atomic size increases, then their py and pz orbitals becomes far away. As a result, they prefer to form these unpaired electrons here. They prefer to form bonds with the adjacent atoms, and hence you will find that this kind of units are formed, p4 units. It is not a square or rhombus, it is three-dimensional. So this 3 is in one plane, this P is above. So this P4 is white phosphorus, and polymeric form of this becomes red phosphorus. And this is highly reactive because these bonds are weak bond. On the contrary, these bonds are weak bond because the bond length is long. It is very difficult to break a long stick, but very difficult to break a bundle of stick. So this is a bundle of bonds, very difficult to break. But this is a very long bond, which is very easy to break. And hence it is highly reactive. So these kind of properties due to which the first element of any group behaves differently from any other elements of the same group is called as anomalous property. Now you will say, sir, what is the anomalous property of oxygen? Yes, see, oxygen exists as O3, but none of the other elements exists as this molecule. Then oxygen is only paramagnetic, O2 is paramagnetic, but all the other molecules are diamagnetic in the same group. Further, oxygen has two allotropes, but other elements has got many other allotropes. The element just below that has a strong ability to catenate, long chain. But oxygen does not undergo catenation to a long extent. What is the anomalous property of fluorine? Fluorine can even form bond with noble gases. See, xenon is so inert, it is in the 18th group, but fluorine is so electronegative that forms compound with xenon. Then, if you see fluorine and chlorine, electronegativity of fluorine is more than that of chlorine, obviously, because as we go down, electronegativity decreases. So fluorine is more electronegative, but electron affinity of chlorine is more than that of fluorine. Okay, electronegativity of chlorine is more than that of electron affinity of fluorine is more than that of fluorine. Reason thereby is that fluorine is a small atom, so its inter-electronic repulsion is very high. As a result, it does not prefer any external electron to come close to each other. But chlorine is a bigger molecule wherein the inter-electronic repulsions are relaxed. So hence electron can come comparatively much easier on the valence shell. So when we will study about group 16, we will again study about that in detail. So now we have to complete group 15. We will go to the textbook and see again any new term is there or not. So this was the anomalous property which is written in various languages here, which I have made it easy for you. Okay. If you will read, you will find the same thing I have explained with my pen. Now here you will see that again one term is there, d pi p pi bond. Okay. So in d pi p pi bond or d pi bond, what is happening? Let us try to understand the meaning of d pi bond. Some words would be there like ligands and all. Let me make it clear. It will become easy for you to understand. See, nitrogen does not have d orbital. 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. In second subcell, there is no scope of d orbital, but phosphorus has d orbital. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p3. And 3d is also there, although it is vacant. Okay, but it has 3d. As a result, what happens? this kind of d pi bond is possible. P pi d pi means oxygen will have p bonds here. If I compare phosphorus oxygen bond, what is this? Let us take this molecule. What is this molecule? This is nothing but phosphorus, one alkyl group, another alkyl group, another alkyl group. This is sigma bond. Now this is the d orbital of this, the d orbital of this. Its d orbital and its p orbital. They overlap to form this d pi p pi bonding. Now, why not d pi d pi? Because oxygen does not have d orbital. If you will see electronic configuration of oxygen, so it will be 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. It does not have d orbital. So in this case, whatever vacant p orbital is there in this, that vacant p orbital of p and vacant d orbital of p, they undergo overlapping to form d pi p pi bond. Now p pi is also possible. Means d pi is also possible. They are saying that d pi bond also with transition elements is possible, in which their compounds they act as ligands. Ligands means electron pair donor. Now here you see the word ligand. Ligand means electron pair donor. Now from where this electron pair is coming? This electron pair is coming from this 2s2 inert pair. It is inert because it is completely paired up. It does not prefer to take part in bond formation. Same is the case with 3s2. It also does not prefer to take part in bond formation. So they form lone pair. They have lone pair. Let me make this alkyl derivative of phosphine. Okay. Now phosphine is what? Phosphine is pH3. Replace 3 hydrogen with 3 alkyl group. Phosphine is this. Replace this 3 hydrogen with alkyl group. C2H5, C2H5, C2H5. Here it has one lone pair of electron. This lone pair of electron is actually, all these orbitals are what kind of orbitals? These are neither s orbital, neither p orbital, nor d orbital. These all are sp3d hybrid orbitals. How? Like this. S orbital is there. I am only taking valence shell electronic configuration now. From here, this much. 2 electrons, p, 3 electrons, and 1 vacant t. Now, this is in ground state. At excited state, what happens? This electron, it gets promoted to come over here. Why? Because it has to extend its covalency. Here you see there are 3 bonds only, and here there are 5 bonds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how these 3 bonds are formed? These 3 bonds are formed when sp3d hybridization is taking place, d orbital is there, and then it is assuming a shape like this, wherein although here electron is not there, but there is a provision of this electron to be accommodated. So just like NH3 ammonia, it is sp3 hybrid orbital. So when required, this electron can come over here and can form a d pi bonding. So this is also here sp3 hybrid orbital, and in one of the sp3 hybrid orbitals, how many orbitals will be there in sp3? sp3, 1 here and 3 here. So there should be 4 lobes. 3 lobes are forming bonds. So these are bond pair, and this is lone pair. So this becomes a lone pair donor, and these lone pair donors are called as ligands. Now d pi bond is formed when in any of the metal ion of d block elements, they have incompletely filled d orbital, and in the incompletely filled d orbital, these can enter as ligands. So ligands we represent by writing like this. These electron pair donors, whatever it may be, we represent it by writing L. L means ligand. So if you take any d block elements, it has some d orbital which is vacant. So there this lone pair of electron can be donated by the ligand. So p block elements in general, like the nitrogen compounds and phosphorus compounds, they act as ligands. Even the alkyl derivatives of arsenic, they are acting as ligands. They can donate electron. Now you will say that, sir, these electrons are already bonded. These electrons are already bonded. So why they should form bond with the vacant d orbital of central metal ion? For that, there is one theory called as Werner theory, which we will study in coordination compounds, wherein in detail we have to study about ligand central metal ion complex compounds. Okay, so here this explanation was only about from where this concept of d pi bond is coming. Okay, so once hybridization takes place, at that time involvement of all such orbital takes place which are of comparable energy level. So this is sp3, but if it is forming a pi bond, so electron can also be there in the d orbital, and this orbital now, which is actually sp3 containing lone pair of electron, can enter into the central metal ion of or d orbital of central metal ion like this, and can form d pi bonding. So this is only possible in case of phosphorus and arsenic. Not possible in case of d pi is not possible in case of nitrogen, because nitrogen only contains p orbital. It does not contain, there is no provision of d orbital. So d pi is possible for phosphorus and arsenic. We don't talk about d pi bonding of any elements beyond or below arsenic, because as you go down, metallic property increases. So a metal generally does not form ligand with another metal. But arsenic is metalloid in nature, it is metalloidic in nature. Phosphorus is completely non-metal, and nitrogen is also non-metal. So this was the concept of d pi bonding. Let us go to the textbook and see what is next. Reactivity towards hydrogen reactivity towards oxygen and reactivity towards halogen, reactivity towards metals. Okay. When we will study this chapter throughout, we will, whenever chemical properties will be there, we will be choosing these reactants only. We will be choosing metals, we will be choosing halogen, we will be choosing hydrogen, we will be choosing oxygen. So this we can understand in a very nice way by making one chart. Say if nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth, all these are elements of p block element, and I write it as E. Like for halogens we write X. Then it will have two types of valencies, +3, -3 and +-5. As a result, if I take its reaction with hydrogen, so it can form EH3. Example, ANH3, PEH3, arsenic hydride, antimony hydride, and bismuth hydride. Now, what question can be asked from the hydrides part? What does hydride do? There are two things. Either they will act as Lewis base. So examiner can try to ask you, how do you relate their basic property? Lewis basic property. So see, as you go down the group, the lone pair of electron becomes more diffused. So, and metallic property also increases. So they have a property of leaving out hydrides easily, but donation of electron pair will become difficult. So if you take their Lewis basic property or basic property, so ammonia is a very strong base. This we know very well. Then phosphorus hydride, then arsenic hydride, then antimony hydride, and then bismuth hydride. Now these hydrides, what are these? These are hydrides. What does these hydrides do? These hydrides donate hydrogen in the form of hydride, so which will be a better reducing agent then. So reducing property. If you will see the bond between NH, PH, ASH, SBH, and bismuth H. As you go down the group, the bond length increases. As a result, its ability to give out hydride increases. So, reducing strength of bismuth hydride will be maximum, bond strength of bismuth hydride will be minimum, and the order will be like this. In this, we relate the properties, and that is how the insider questions are created. See here, the basicity also decreases in the order like this. So these are the insider questions which are there in NCERT book, which we need to magnify and learn. Same is the concept of oxygen. If you take the oxides, like nitrogen is anomalous property, it shows anomalous property, it will form N2O, it will form NO, it will form NO2, it will form N2O4, it will form N2O3. But if you make this to react with water, what it will form? It will form acidic oxide. It will form acidic or acid. Which acid? HNO3. Because these are non-metallic oxides. Non-metallic oxides are acidic. Now, if you see the oxides of nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, and bismuth, if you see their oxide, whatever form is there, depends upon its valency. Like it can form P2O3, it can form P2O5. P2O5 actually exists as P4O10 because of the catenation property of phosphorus. As2O3, Sb2O3, bismuth 2O3. So as its metallic property increases, with increase in metallic property, acidic nature decreases. So bismuth is a metal, so its acid, its oxide will preferably form an amphoteric base. Same is the case with halogens. Like one thing you have to just remember that nitrogen can form NF3, NCl3, phosphorus can form PCl3, PCl5, but NCl5 is not possible. It is also anomalous property. It is because nitrogen does not have d orbital. So sp3d hybridization is not possible. But PCl5 can be formed. Arsenic ASL3 can be formed. As the metallic property increases, its +3 oxidation state increases. Its +3 oxidation state becomes more stable. Nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, and bismuth. As it becomes more and more metallic, its inner pair effect, that means reluctance of NS2 electron, increases, and it tries to remain as trivalent ion. Okay, because pentavalent cations you will find are very rare, they are unstable, but trivalent cations are very much stable, so it can form BiCl3, so on. Now your next class will start, so I have to stop. We will be continuing our discussion like this. Yes.
Sir, nitrogen can't extend its covalency, means maximum covalency is 4.
It is 5 also.
So is it the reason?
No, I am talking. See,
No,
valency can be 4. Valency can be 4 also. Valency can be 5 also for nitrogen. But extending its covalency up to 5. Like in which case you are saying? Are you saying in case of N2O5? In case of HNO3, nitrogen shows -5 valency, but it is not covalency, it is oxidation state. It is due to the presence of oxygen and hydroxyl group, all that. If you will see the structure of N2O5, structure is like this. One oxygen is there in between and then nitrogen is there. And it is very unstable, isn't it? It quickly tries to become NO2 gas. So covalency 3 is a stable one. Covalency 5 is not possible. That is what I am saying. And here it is valency. All right. So that is there.